In the 1970s, a new kind of pioneer came to the Big Bend. They weren't miners or ranchers, but they were risk takers, wanderers, misfits. They were the original outfitters. They made a massive gamble. They bet their entire lives on a single, wild, unpredictable force, the Rio Grande.
It was about freedom, trying something no one else had done. We just had faith, and we took a chance.
But these original river tamers were building their dream on a force that was already dying. This is the story of one of the original outfitters of Big Bend. 50 years ago, he risked it all. He never left. It's the story of the baton that was passed and the unbroken spirit they're all fighting to protect. To understand what they're fighting to protect, you have to go back to the beginning. Before the high-speed highways, before the internet, even before Big Bend was a dot on the tourist map. In the 1970s, this was still El Despoblado, the uninhabited place, a land of miners, ranchers, and ghosts. You didn't end up here by accident. You came here to escape. Mike Davidson was one of those pioneers. He and a handful of others saw something no one else did. Not a barren wasteland, but a paradise of adventure. For Mike, that revelation was born on the river itself.
Yeah, I got involved in river recreation, 50 years ago, and I ran into a fellow and became friends with him who had been a river guide out in California, and we did about 14 days on the river. And that was a long time to kind of contemplate things, being out on the river. And I found out that somebody pays you guys to do this? Sign me up.
And so they did. They called their new company Flung Adventures. It was a revolutionary idea. It was also a massive gamble, built on nothing but grit and a deep faith in the river. And that gamble paid off.
We started this little business, the two of us, and came out here with really not knowing what in the world we would do. 5 years later, we grossed $1.2 million. So.
They had built a life here. Some of them, like Mike, bet everything on this place, and they never left. But the river they built their dream on was already beginning to change.
Be sure to hit like, subscribe, and tap that notification bell so you can join us for every Wild Yeti Films adventure. And if you have any Big Bend photos or stories you want to share, send them to info@wildyetifilms.com. Now, back to the show.
The pioneers had bet their lives on the Rio Grande, but in the desert, water is a fickle partner. Ask any outfitter who's worked this river, and they'll tell you the same story. They're floating on the ghost of the river they used to know.
Flung's been here for a long time. It's been here since 1976, and the river has changed greatly since then. All the way through the 80s and really through the 90s, the river was raging compared to what it is today.
So what happened? Where did the mighty Rio Grande go? The answer is a death by 1,000 cuts, and it starts hundreds of miles upstream.
It just causes you to wonder, where does the water come from? Water is a huge issue. The Rio Grande is a perfect example of that. The Rio Grande originates up in Colorado, but that water has long since been impounded and diverted, and we don't see any of that water in this reach of the river.
That impounded water is pulled to feed massive irrigation systems, the single largest consumer of the river. What's left then flows to booming cities like Albuquerque and El Paso, thirsty for their share.
Most of the time today, we're down into a hard canoe because of the water levels. So the river has just changed greatly from really wild to a little less wild as far as water flow goes.
On top of all that, a more powerful force is at play. A prolonged historic drought has crippled the region. Less snowpack in the mountains means less melt to feed the river. Higher temperatures means more water evaporates before it ever flows downstream. It's the perfect storm of dams, diversions, agriculture, cities, and drought. It's a combination that has transformed the Rio Grande into a battlefield.
Mark Twain was pretty famous for saying, "Whiskey is for drinking and water's for fighting over." The Rio Grande is a perfect example of that.
The rapids that once challenged the first rafters are now just ripples. The wild ride was over. The river had changed. And for the outfitters to survive, they would have to change with it. The spirit of Far Flung, that original 1970s gamble, didn't die with the lowering of the water. It just evolved. This is Billy Bartko, the current owner of Far Flung. He's part of the new guard of outfitters who inherited the legacy of pioneers like Mike Davidson, but who face a completely different set of challenges. Their solution? Look beyond the riverbanks.
Started out as just a river company. It's grown into a river company with lodging, with Jeep tours and ATV tours. And so we like to say that we're the only full-stop, one-stop shop here in the Big Bend as far as an adventure hotel goes. And we're the only adventure hotel offering lodging and tours.
But the adaptation wasn't just on land. It also happened on the water. This new generation, guides like Adana and Eric from the Big Bend Boating and Hiking Company, understand the river in a new way. Where the pioneers saw a force to be conquered with heavy rafts, the new guard sees a delicate wonder to be explored.
With the water levels being much lower, the time on the river is a more intimate experience. You spend a lot more time being quiet and really taking in the beauty of the environment you're in.
In the summer, I mostly do big whitewater stuff, really intense whitewater, and then down here in the wintertime, it's more interpretive guiding. A lot of really cool stuff to talk about the history of the area and see some really cool historical stuff around.
The shift from large rafts to kayaks and canoes wasn't a defeat. It was an adaptation. It opened up the canyons to a new kind of trip. One focused not on thrills, but on immersion. The river may have been the main artery, but the new guard understood the real adventure was everywhere. The outfitter's spirit was never just about the water. It was about the land itself.
Well, I'd never been any place like this. I'd been to Yellowstone. I'd been to a lot of national parks. And so I came out here and could see forever. I see different things every time I go down the same roads that I've been down 1,000 times.
Today, that spirit of discovery goes far beyond the riverbanks. Chris is an interpretive guide with Far Flung. He specializes in desert Jeep tours, where guests can experience firsthand the extraordinary land of the Big Bend. On these tours, the land itself becomes the main character. You're not just on a ride, you're on a journey through time.
It's hard to imagine, but we're driving on an ancient seafloor. And if you look over there at those dark-colored rocks, that's all the result of volcanic activity. One of the things I love about this place is that every mile is a different chapter in Earth's history.
This is the new face of exploration, a way to understand the epic scale, the violent geology, and the harsh climate that forged Big Bend. But in doing so, they revealed a deeper truth, one that the original pioneers knew all along. The final truth is this: it was never really about the white water. It wasn't about the horsepower of the Jeep. Those are just tools. Ask any guide, from the first pioneers to the new guard, and you'll find a deeper connection, a calling, a desire not just to see the desert, but to become one with it.
A lot of it has to be the simplicity of life here, the slowness, the peace and quiet for the most part, getting to work on yourself, which is not always an easy thing to do, and then just the beauty of it, the solitude, yeah.
The spirit for me is the freedom of the desert. You need a little bit of uniqueness, a little bit of the desert. You know, the desert speaks to people. It sounds, you know, cliche, but it's true. The desert might speak to you. Some of those rocks, some of these trees down here, some of these plants might kind of speak to you in a way that, you know, you just know, like, this is where I'm supposed to be right now.
It's a humility born from the land itself and from the spirits of those who came first.
You have to have a tremendous respect for the original people. The indigenous people, they lived here first. They survived here. We're just passing through.
This is the true spirit of the outfitter. It's a spiritual journey, and it's a journey that only feels complete when you share it.
We get a lot of people who it's their bucket list to be in Big Bend and to be down here and so far away from everything, the middle of nowhere down here, and to be a part of that and help them experience as best they can that experience is what it's about.
They are the keepers of the stories, the guardians of the experience. They are the unbroken thread, connecting the past to the present, all of them bound by the same wild, untamable spirit of the desert. The river is a ghost of what it once was. The wild, thundering ride of the 1970s now lives on only in faded photographs and in the memories of the first pioneers. But the spirit of the outfitter is no ghost at all. It's alive and well in the men and women who took a chance on this land and never left. The water may have receded, but the call of the wild remains strong. The methods have changed from raft to kayak, from river to trail, but the mission is the same: to explore, to respect, and to share the soul of this land that refuses to be forgotten.